Hello, chess fans. Welcome to another edition of Chess Chat, a program designed to give you, the viewer, a good understanding of the fascinating world of chess. I am George Merijanian, Program Director of the Wachusett Chess Club at Fitchburg State University. This club meets every Wednesday evening from 7 to 11 in room C-159 of the McKay Complex at the university. And with me today at the Fitchburg Access Television Production Center in the control room is our award-winning director, Darren Dame of Fitchburg, assisted by two-time Wachusett Chess Club champion Bruce Felton, also of Fitchburg. And behind the camera, following all the action, is our staunch Wachusett Chess Club member, Brian Bigelow of Leominster. And with me today is a special co-host, a longtime member of the Wachusett Chess Club, and one who has competed in many U.S. Opens over the years, Gail Lingner of Fitchburg. Hello, Gail.
Hi, George.
Well, Gail, you're here today because my regular co-host, Martin Lane, could not make it to tonight's episode, but we're more than welcome to have you back because you were here a couple of years ago.
Yes.
We did a program, I think, on the Estonian Grandmaster Paul Carey's.
We did.
And actually, that was quite a show because that show historically has received more hits on FATV's video on demand than any other chess show we've done. Do you know how many hits that show has received?
I only know that it's close to 12,000.
Yes, it's phenomenal that it's been shown around the world.
Yes.
But Gail, today we're going to focus our attention on the Women's World Championship and the world champion Hou Yifan of China. She has regained the title that she won in 2010, and which she actually defended in 2011, lost the title in 2012, but came back just this last month and beat Anna Ushanina of Ukraine,
Who was the 2012 champion, correct?
Yes, and we did,
Yes.
in fact, Marty and I did a show on Anna Ushanina in January.
I remember that, yes.
Yes. So this match was played in Taizhou, China, and actually it was played in the province where Hou Yifan lives.
Yes.
This match was played actually just this last month, September 2013, and she regained the title in a 10-game match very decisively. She beat Anna Ushanina by a score of 5.5 to 1.5. It was a 10-game match. It was clinched after 7 games. Now, what do we know about Hou? There was a photo we just saw of Hou Yifan. She is 19 years old. She's a prodigy. She was a prodigy.
Yes.
She, she started playing chess regularly at the age of 6. But, even before she started playing on a regular basis, like in tournaments, at the age of 3, her father used to take her to a bookstore in their hometown. I think that she grew up in Xinhu, China, and there was a bookstore that the father would take her after dinner, and her father noticed that this 3-year-old daughter of his would stare at the glass chess pieces behind the window in the bookstore. So because of that, he decided to buy her a chess set. He bought her a chess set.
Good move.
Right. Good move on his part.
Yes.
He bought her a chess set, and it wasn't long before she started beating her father and her grandmother. Her grandmother also played chess, and it was a phenomenal. I mean, there were people who marveled at a 3-year-old be able to beat a father and a grandmother.
I guess so.
And she eventually started playing regularly, again at the age of 6. And she has the distinction of being the youngest female ever to be awarded the Grandmaster title. Now,
Really?
There are actually 2 titles. I mean, as far as Grandmaster, there is the regular Grandmaster title, but there's also a Women's Grandmaster title.
Yes.
She attained the Women's Grandmaster title in 2007, January of 2007, but in 2008, the World Chess Federation awarded her the title of Grandmaster. And there are very few women who have the title of Grandmaster. There's quite a few that have the title of Women's Grandmaster, but she has the distinction of being a Grandmaster, and She happens to be the #1 girl player in the world. I mean, at
Well,
19.
after seeing the game that she played, I can see
Yeah.
why she's attained that
Now,
status.
we chess players have heard of the name Judith Polgar.
Oh, yes.
Judith Polgar is
She
the
was the strongest.
Well, she is. No, she is. No, Judith Polgar is still the #1
Still?
player. Oh, she's the highest rated player in the world. But Hou Yifan is #2. She's actually right after Judith Polgar in the
good for
rating
her.
list. Okay. Now, in the game that we're going to present, Gail, this is game 3 of this 10-game match played against Anna Ushinina. And it's a very instructive game.
It's fascinating.
You were fascinated when I showed this game to you, and we showed this game to a number of people, including our crew.
Yes.
Brian Bigelow behind the camera, Bruce Felton, who's going to be cueing the moves to our director. They were both mesmerized by this.
Well,
by
I
this
am
game.
too. I'm considering
So we should
learning
get right
this.
into this game to show our viewers how exciting this game is from that match.
Well, shouldn't we talk for just a moment about the hypermodern defense?
Well, we haven't got into the game yet. We should actually explain what the game is and then discuss
All right.
what this is.
Okay.
So who had white in this game? It's actually Anna Ushinina.
Anna Ushinina, yeah.
All right, so what was her first move in this game
Her
3?
first move was D4.
Okay, so D4. Is that a good move?
It controls the center. It occupies the center square, and it controls these two.
Okay.
So yes, it's a very good
This is a
move.
highly recommended opening move,
Yes.
D4. One could also play E4.
E4.
Okay. So what Hou Yifan replied with was knight F6. Now, by playing the knight out here, she is now controlling the E4 square.
Right.
Stops white from playing E4, because actually white would have loved to play a second pawn in the center, but
Yeah.
now white is prevented from doing that. Okay, so what did white do now on the second move?
C4.
Okay, a good move? Has to be.
Yes.
If you have a top-notch player.
Who
playing
am I to say it wasn't a good move?
Oh, it's a good move. Okay, now, in response to this, black played E6. Now, what can you tell our viewers about this move, E6? What does this move do?
So E6 clears a way for the bishop to move. And
so it clears
for
a
castling.
path for the bishop to
Yes.
come out. Okay,
Yes.
very good. All right, so what does white do now on the third move?
Knight to C3.
Knight C3. Okay. Now, with this move, Knight C3, developing the knight to a good square, what is white threatening to do here after this knight goes to C3? Do you see what white's threat is? Is this to prepare the advance of the pawn? This is, yes.
Yeah, because he couldn't advance here before because
The
of
knight
this,
would be
but now
protecting
he
it.
can.
Okay. Now, in response to Knight C3, black could play D5, and if black had played D5, this game would have been transposed
To a
what we
queen's
call
gambit.
Yes, this is known as the Queen's Gambit.
Yes,
But black did not do that.
right.
Instead, Hou Yifan played bishop B4, pins the knight.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it
It stops actually white from
stops
playing
the-
E4.
Yeah.
Now, this defense has a name. What is this defense known as?
This is the Nimzo-Indian.
Nimzo Indian
Defense.
defense. Now, the Nimzo Indian defense is named after a very famous chess player. You chuckle.
We had arguments about the pronunciation.
Yes.
I say Nimzo, he says Nimse.
No. This is true in this English speaking. A lot of English speaking chess players refer to the player as
Nimzovich.
But the correct pronunciation of this player, who was born in Latvia, settled in Denmark, is Nimzovich.
Okay,
So-
tomato, George.
Okay, yeah, all right, okay. Well, I'm saying that I'm a purist. I like to have the correct pronunciation of names. So this is known as the Nimzo Indian defense.
Yes.
But what are these Indian defenses? You play Indian defense.
I did.
What Indian
They're
defense do
usually
you play?
characterized by, and here's another word we disagree about, fianchettos. Yes.
You say fianchetto, I say fianchetto.
Yes.
Because I know my Italian is better than your Italian. Because in Italian, the proper pronunciation is fianchetto. You say fianchetto. But be that as it may,
Yes.
the Indian defenses are characterized by the fianchetto or fianchetto of a bishop, light square bishop or dark square bishop.
But in the Nimzo-Indian, that doesn't
This
happen.
is an exception. This is one Indian defense where there's no fianchetto or fianchetto of the bishop. Okay, so what did white do in response to bishop e4? It's now white's fourth move?
He played the queen here.
So she played queen c2.
Yeah.
Now, why? Why does the queen go to c2?
Well, if the bishop takes, then the pawns won't be
you
doubled.
mean, so the bishop was actually threatened to take the knight, you think, to double the pawns here?
Well, I don't know if it was going to, but if
well,
it
it's
did,
a possibility.
it's a possibility.
But the queen here, that is, if they were in exchange now immediately, the queen could take back, and white could avoid having the pawns doubled.
Right.
What can you say about double pawns? Is this something you should avoid?
Oh,
you should
double pawns very bad.
So you should
they can't defend each other.
Okay. Now, if we can get back to the board, if we can get back to the position, besides queen c2, were there any other moves possible in this position besides queen c2?
There are always other moves, but they aren't as good.
Well, I'm going to show our viewers all the playable moves here in this position.
When I looked at this, you said, "Oh, beginner's move."
That's a beginner's move, right? That's a very passive move. Come here, defend the knight.
Yes.
You know, what you want to be is be more active. Either develop like knight f3. Garry Kasparov, former world champion, would play knight f3. That was popular with him. a3, putting the question to the bishop immediately. Yeah. Was a move advocated by a German master named Fritz Zamisch. It's known as the Zamisch variation.
Yeah.
It's going to force black now to, it makes no sense to retreat the bishop after you committed it to b4.
Right.
So it would allow the exchange here, doubling the pawns, and white doesn't have to fear the double pawns, but it would eliminate the bishop. It would actually get rid of black's bishop.
Yeah, and black's bishop is strong. He doesn't want to get rid of that right
Another
now.
possibility was play e3. Just bring e3, opening up the diagonal for the light square bishop. Of course, it shuts in the dark square bishop by doing that. Another possibility might have been f3. Now, who in their right mind would play f3? With what purpose? To actually now advance the pawn to e4 in the next move.
To support the...
Right. There's also the possibility of playing queen. You pointed out queen b3 is a possibility. Okay, that's actually, there was a player named Spielmann, Rudolf Spielmann, who advocated this, a century ago. But queen c2 was what was played. Let's get back to the game, because in chess you can really get go off on a tangent, with all these variations. Indeed. All right. So after queen c2, black
castle.
Black just simply castle. Hey, black can castle quickly, and that's what she did. All right. So now it's white's fifth move. Yes. Okay. So it's move 5.
I have e4.
Yeah, e4, okay. So white has accomplished her goal of putting three pawns in the center. That looks like a very imposing center there. Would you agree?
It
does.
does.
All right, so in response to e4, and by the way, what is
the hyper-modern is controlling the center from a distance.
Okay.
A classical player wants to occupy and control the center, so
actually, white occupies the center.
Yes, but black is trying to control it with minor pieces.
Well, black was controlling the center early, and that was considered hypermodernism.
Yes.
When did this hypermodernism come about?
Well, Nimzovich.
Yes. Okay.
Played it first in 1914.
He did? 1914?
Yes, and then after the First World War, in the 1920s, it became more popular.
Okay, so there was a school of thought about a group of players, hyper-modern players, who believe, hey, I don't have to occupy the center. As long as I can try to challenge for the control of the center, I'm okay. But now, what is white's threat now after playing e4? It's black's move, of course, but what is white threatening to do here?
E5.
Oh, yes. If white is able to advance e5 now, where can that poor knight go that's under attack?
Poor little thing has to go back.
Has to actually reach, well, it could go over here, but it could be harassed. It
Yeah.
could be chased all over the place.
Yeah.
So what black did in response to e4 was play d5.
D5.
So now we're going to challenge about the center, control
Right.
of the center here.
Right.
All right, so now it's white's sixth move. What does white do here? Move 6.
He still does this.
All right, so the knight is under attack. Now, it doesn't really make sense to retreat the knight back, although some players would do that. They'd bring the knight back to e8. Possibly some players would bring the knight on f6 to d7. But what Hou Yifan played was
She's
knight
going to
e4.
sink right in here.
Because remember, it's protected by the
Right.
pawn at d5. And also, we have a pin. The two minor pieces of black have a double attack on this knight on c3. Of course, it's defended twice with
Right.
the queen and the pawn on b2. All right, so it's white's seventh move. White doesn't like that knight on e4. So what does white do on move 7? Say it. What is it?
Bishop to d3.
Okay, so now we have a threat of actually attacking the knight, and on any recapture, white's going to actually win a pawn. All right, because white is threatening to win a pawn here, what black played in response on her seventh move was c5. What's this all about? What
Yeah,
does
this
do?
is really getting wild and woolly.
Well, yes, we have an attack and counterattack.
Yeah, this is really getting complicated.
So what does white do now? What does Anna Ushanina do on her eighth move here? This pawn is under attack.
Yes.
It's not defended, so what does white
She's
do?
going to defend it with a knight to f3.
Okay, so the knight it develops. Okay, the knight f3.
Yeah, defends the...
And what, now, in this position, black continued by exchanging pawns. The c pawn takes the d pawn. So we have c takes d4, and white
knight-
responds with what?
Knight takes d4.
Okay, that was the ninth move by white. Now, in this position, black could have taken this pawn on d5, could have taken the pawn on c4, unleashing an attack on the knight on d4, which is undefended, but she chose not to do that. It was a playable move, but I think she came up with a better move. She came up with knight on b8 is played to d7. With what threat? What is that threat? What is this knight on d7 threatening to do? Yes, capture the undefended pawn on e5. All right, so what does Anna Ushanina do now on her 10th move?
She plays bishop to f4.
Okay, so she protects
She protects
the
it.
pawn. She doesn't want to lose that pawn. That's a very...
And also developing the
Okay.
bishop.
And now, doesn't white now renew the threat of taking the knight on e4 with the bishop, and on the exchange we're winning a pawn? So there's a threat now of winning a pawn here by whites by defending the pawn on e5. So what Hou Yifan played was this knight on d7 goes to c5. What's the threat?
All this is really getting
Is it too
very,
complicated?
very complicated.
Is it really that complicated?
I believe it is.
All right, okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so the attack,
White doesn't want to lose that bishop.
so this bishop is now under attack by this knight. Okay. So what did white do here then?
Well,
That-
first of all, she castled.
Oh, she castled. Now by castling, she's now off this pin. Remember, this bishop was
Right.
pinning that knight, and now we have a threat of taking here and still winning a pawn here if we have
Correct.
the exchanges. All right. So what did black do after white castled? Well, black said, "Wait a minute. Now that there's no pin here on the king,
Might as well
we
take
might
it."
as well take the knight right here." Okay.
Yeah.
And now that forces the next move
The
is forced.
pawn has to take back
Can't take back
because
with the
the
queen.
knight,
Right.
the knight is
controls.
protecting that.
All right, so what black has inflicted upon white are double pawns. I thought we were trying to avoid. I thought you're trying to avoid that.
We were,
Okay, this is a weakness, right? Having double pawns.
yes.
Okay. All right. So after this b takes c3, now the one problem that black has, among other things, is this bishop. Look at this poor little the light squared bishop here. You see how it's shut in?
Yeah.
It has
It
limited
needs to
scope.
get out so that the rook can come over
Yes.
to
Right.
a semi-open file,
Right.
too.
So what Hou Yifan played here on her 12th move was bishop d7. She gets it out. She's going to develop that bishop to the only square he could go to. All right, so what did Anna Ushanina play on her 13th
Now
move?
she played back here
Ah.
to prevent the taking of that bishop. Bishop to e2.
Now you realize in this position, let's go back to the position, let's go to the board again. If black had not played bishop d7, black could have eliminated the bishop immediately by knight takes d3, but she chose not to take make that capture right away. Instead, she chose to play bishop d7, and as you point out, white just retreated a bit, saves the bishop.
Right.
So there's no exchange of minor pieces here. So now what did black do? So it is now black's move. The bishop went to e2.
Yeah.
Well, what black played here was knight a4. What is the threat here? Usually, is it a wise idea to move knights to the side of the board?
Well, they usually say a knight on the rim is dim, but
Yes.
I'm not going to argue with her
No, but
logic.
there are exceptions.
Here,
Yes.
it was a
Yes,
good
there is the
move.
old saying in chess, a knight on the rim is dim.
Yes. They're threatening this.
Yeah, actually, the threat is actually to win this pawn on c3. We have a double attack, two knights attacking a pawn which is only defended by the queen. So what does white do here after knight a4? Well,
C takes d5.
so this pawn on c4 takes the pawn on d5, and what black does, well, now this knight is not protected,
Now,
so the pawn
has to
on
take
e
back.
takes d5, protects the knight, so the queen cannot take it. So now it is, whose move is it? It must be.
It's white's move.
White's move.
15th move.
Okay, so what are we doing now? Oh, wait a minute. We've renewed. We still have the threat of taking this pawn on c3
Right.
with the knight.
Right.
So
So we're going to push the pawn to c4.
all right, so that's what white did.
Right.
All right, that was the 15th move by white, c4. All right, so, and again, black cannot take that pawn with the pawn because that pawn is needed to protect the knight on e4.
Correct.
But what black played here was naturally
The
a
logical
good
move is to
Logic-
play the
you would-
rook
you would-
over.
If you had this position in the game, you would do the same thing?
Yes.
Right. You'd play rook c8, pinning this,
Yes.
pinning the pawn here. Okay, so it's white's move now. Rook c8 has been played. It's white's 16th move.
b3.
So she doesn't like to be on this file.
No.
Yeah,
no.
this is dangerous. But would you believe this may be the move that actually leads to her loss?
Yeah.
Because what she could have played better, was there a better move? There has to be a better move.
Of course.
What was it? Give me a better move. Well, you don't know? What if I suggest just developing the rook and getting this rook developed on the file?
That's
This
always
would
a
have
good
been
move.
better. And then actually, again, remember, this pawn cannot be taken by either the pawn or the rook because we have we have to defend this knight here. We also have protection by the bishop on e2. All right. So this was a better move.
Yeah.
Rook ac1 was a much better move, but instead, white played queen b3. All right. So now it is black's 16th move. Well, now with the queen off the attack on the knight, this pawn now can take here, right?
Right.
And this is what happened. D takes c4. All right. So, wait a minute. What does white do here? After B,
Bishop has to take.
so bishop takes the c4. Okay. Now, materially, are we equal here as far as material number of pawns?
I think we counted it, and
Yes.
we are pretty much even.
No, it's 5. I see as far as the same number of minor pieces, 3 minor pieces, two major, the 2 rooks and the queen. The pawns are the same, so materially it's the same. But whose position looks better here? I mean, looks like there's chances either side here. I mean,
Their chances are, yeah.
okay, all right. So, here's what happened. After bishop takes c4, we have now, this knight now can sink into here.
Yes.
Okay.
And the two knights are protecting each other.
Okay, all right. So
And
now,
they're threatening all this stuff.
all right, fine. Okay, I see. All right. Now, what does white do? Wait. What is the threat by the? By playing the knight here, a to c3.
The threat is to play
Look
the
at
bishop.
This threat over here. Not only does the bishop attack the queen, but also isn't the queen attacking the knight?
Yes.
So this is a major threat here.
Yeah.
So what white did was what?
A4.
Oh, so it plays right there? Well, this doesn't stop.
It doesn't stop it.
Well,
black still takes
Black
that.
still takes, bishop takes a4, attacks the queen.
And now white sacrifices the rook here.
Well, so the rook takes the bishop? Mm-hmm. Rook takes a4.
Right.
Okay. And black just simply took it back. Knight takes a4 is black's move.
And this position is where all of the crew
Yes, yeah, when we showed this to the crew.
discussed this at great length.
Yeah.
And wondered why she did not take this.
Let's show our viewers. Let's get we see the position on our monitor here. Why wasn't queen takes a4 played? Because if white had played queen takes a4, okay, and doesn't actually give her regains the piece here. But why is this a mistake for black to take the knight on
That's a
on
major
d4?
bad, because bishop takes pawn check, drops the queen.
Bishop takes here, f7 check. After recapturing, this queen will be lost after queen takes d4. Okay. So that's why this would be this knight here would be poisoned.
Right.
Okay. So in this position, Anna Ushanina did not do this. What she could have.
Yeah.
Because actually that would stop black from playing the knight. But it's a very complicated position. We don't have enough days in the month to go over the analysis regarding the complications here. But what she did play in response to this knight under attack moves to f5. Knight f5 is white's next move. All right.
Right.
So what does now black do? Well, black in this position has to say, now this is under attack here. So this knight now moves knight a to c3.
Right. Right back here where the two knights
One
are
knight
protecting
protects
each
the other.
other.
Okay. Okay. So it is now white's move. What does white do here?
Plays e6.
E6.
And the pawn can't take.
Okay. And by the way,
also that we looked at the threat of pushing.
Oh, this is a nasty threat. Pushing the pawn to e7, forking the rook and the queen.
Yeah.
Ooh, this is very unpleasant here. All right. So what does black do in response to e6? Well, this is a surprise.
Yeah, rook takes c4.
But this is an excellent move. Hou Yifan, who understands tactics, plays rook takes c4. What's all this about? Giving up, offering the exchange. We call the exchange giving a rook for a minor piece. Okay. Now, again, we don't have enough days in the month, to go over the analysis following the push to e7. But we can point out that white in this position took the rook.
Right.
Queen takes c4. That's what was played. Right. Okay. Now, what was the response to that?
Black played b5.
And this is an excellent move.
Yes.
Only a tactical player would understand playing this.
Yes.
b5. What does this move do? b5.
It's forcing the queen to move.
It attacks the queen. And the queen would like to stay along this diagonal because of this pin, against the king here.
Right.
So the queen, where did the queen move to?
The queen went to b3.
All right, let's move the queen to b3. All right, right here. All right, so now it is black's move. The threat is still there, though. White still has the threat of pushing the pawn here, right?
Yeah, we didn't figure out why not, but
okay. Well, no. Well, first of all, the white queen saved itself by moving back. Now black plays this move. Queen d3. Is that the move that was played?
Yep.
Queen d3. Now, what is is there a threat here?
Oh, there's all kinds of threats.
Okay. All right.
There are many, many threats.
All right. Well, then what did white do in response to queen d3? What's the move that was played here?
E takes f7 check.
So we have is this the first check of the game? We played all these moves and no one's checked anybody.
Right.
But now we have the first check of the game. E takes f7, and rook takes f7
and resigned.
Why did he resign?
Because there are so many threats.
Well, the threat is here. Knight here, check,
dropping
wins the queen. This is losing material.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is a great game. So chess fans, I hope you enjoyed the game that Gail and I presented to you from the Women's World Chess Championship. We hope to see you next time for an exciting game they're going to present to you on the next episode of Chess Chat. See you then.